Andrew, what did you make of Mr Dutton's comments when it comes to savings that the opposition is looking at, particularly in the public service?
Well, he's not doing what Tony Abbott did in 2013, which is promise no cuts to various things like the ABC and SBS, and then, of course, he did the 2014 budget where he proposed the cuts. So he's not quarantining the health and education departments, which Labor is seizing on, but he's saying no frontline services cut, but he's also basically suggesting he might cut the ABC. You didn't rule out making cuts to the health and education departments today. Could that occur? How can you ensure it's not frontline services?
Andrew, if you have a look at the figures that are in, and this is a point I made today, the figures in the budget now for health and for education, they are the figures that we commit to. So the same funding, the same spending on health and education, we stick to and we commit to, and I've said that we will legislate for that.
There's a lot of critics on your side about the ABC, so what about, would you have a look at their budget?
Well, again, I think the approach that we would take is to reward excellence and to, where we find waste, to cut that waste.
You're not ruling any of that out, that's for sure. And the other language that was quite clear, is strong on Trump, strong also on the China vessels, and says the Prime Minister's guilty of appeasement.
When are we getting the defence announcement? That's the question. I'll wager with you, Kieran, it'll be before pre-poll opens, but we know they're going to announce an increase in defence spending, probably paid for by those public service cuts that he is considering. And this is where the recent visit of the Chinese naval ships and this story around the Chinese research vessel broken by our colleague Sharry Markson comes into play. And I made the comparison, though, to Peter Dutton. What about a couple of years ago when Scott Morrison was in and the Chinese warships came into Sydney Harbour? He said, well, that's different. That was planned. So there you go. Have a listen.
Prime Minister can't even stand up and explain his theory on why these surveillance ships are circumnavigating our country. This hasn't happened in this fashion before. And for the government not to have...
They say they came into Sydney Harbour during Scott Morrison.
But there was an arrangement put in place for that to happen. There were months of planning in relation to that. It's chalk and cheese. There's no problem with an arranged visit, and we have cordial relations with many countries. But to turn up and to start exercises without the government knowing about it, that's a complete abrogation of the Defence Minister's responsibility.